Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is part 2 of What If Isagi Had a Street Baller Weapon. As always, if you enjoy, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. We're almost at 30k subs. Very close, so let's get there. That would be awesome. Don't know what I'm going to do for 30k subs. Maybe nothing, maybe something. Not sure yet, but nonetheless, hope y'all enjoy. And let's get right into part 2. Let's get it. Now it's time for Team Z to take on Team Y. And Isagi doesn't know that much about this team. They've done their research just a little bit, but they didn't really learn that much about them. But when the match would start, he would see that they're all kind of playing keep away. Isagi thinks this is kind of boring. I mean, this is kind of lame. What are you going to do? Play keep away until you find an opening? He stands there and thinks to himself, oh my god, they're actually going to do that. He finds this absolutely disgusting. The fact that someone's as dumb and as kind of annoying as them to basically play keep away until they find an opening within the defense and probably try to score down the field. And he flat out hates the idea that they're even doing this. He believes that it's not even fun. And frankly, he's right. He says to all of them that if they're going to really play keep away like this, why even play football? There's literally no point. They're not having fun. It's obvious that they're not. I mean, his team's not having fun. All they're doing is watching them throw the ball around. And that's just lame. Why do they keep doing it? Eventually, though, it would lead to a pass to Nico and a ball getting more or less kicked down the field in quick succession. Isagi would tell everybody to recover and shift with the defense. As they shift, Isagi would, in a full sprint, would actually help recover the distance, even distracting Okawa just for a split second, allowing Gagamaru to get in position to chip the ball so that he actually misses the first goal. Isagi looks at them as he gets the ball, and he tells them that if they really want to play these little cheap tricks to somehow win, then they're going to start playing at a pace that he likes playing at. In which they're all confused at what they're hearing, but he would look toward Bachira and move his head, and look toward Gagamaru and move his head, telling them to try and keep up. He immediately would dart off straight toward the midline as he darts by one, getting by another, nutmegging the next, and quick passes it to Bachira. Bachira would kick it right back to Isagi, as Isagi would immediately kick it right to Gagamaru, who's sprinting down the field and has an insane flexibility to catch up to the ball and kick it directly into the goal. Isagi tells them and looks toward Nico, saying that if he really wants to get the pass off to Okawa, he might want to do it quickly, because it's not going to be that simple anymore. He tells him this and says there's no chance in hell he's going to let them play at a slow pace. He's not here to more or less watch people pass the ball around and, oh yeah, we're going to stall the game out. He's pissed at the fact that they really tried to do that and tells Bachira to get ready to run a lot. So whoever doesn't like running and whoever has low stamina, well, you might as well switch off because they're going to be going out at an insane pace now. Isagi immediately out right when the ball is kicked in, he would go sprinting forward, looking for an opening. And that opening would appear relatively quickly, especially with how fast they're swarming to the ball. They're insanely confused. The other team, Team Y, insanely confused at how Isagi's even keeping up this pace, how he's able to get from person to person, and eventually he would react to the ball and steal it. Once again, looking for his own goal, and he would shoot a beautiful one about 15 to 20 meters out. One that is threaded right above the goalie, and it's an amazing goal. After that, he would get set once again, and he would more or less continue to talk trash, telling them that they're a bunch of useless football players if they're going to sit here and try to stall out time. But luckily for them, and to the enjoyment of himself, they can't really do that anymore. They're down 2-0, so he thinks that it's probably time for them to get a little bit more creative, in which creative isn't necessarily what they're looking for. Isagi would be kind of frustrated at this. It's as if they can't adapt. They thought a single one-track minded plan would work so easily that they could win off this. Well, where's the creativity? Where's the fun? There's no fun in this. Structured plans. You guys are all strikers. 11 of you. So useless. Especially you. He would point at the kid with some weird hair, a weird afro covering his eyes by the name of Nico. And he would tell him that he's useless, that he more or less fits perfectly supposedly in this plan to what? Play like a bunch of chickens? To play like some lame football players? Why were they even strikers in the first place? God, he thought his team was built up of a bunch of people that were just the best on their team. That's why they were put at the striker position. But it's obvious. It's obvious that everybody on their team, it was the definition of just, you know, he's the best player on the team. Put him at the striker position. He says that it's not even close. Their teams aren't even comparable. At least his team has some sort of skill. In which Nico would get frustrated as he hears this, and Isagi would go diving toward him, stealing the ball, telling him that if he gets mad, well, he can get mad all he wants, but at least put some action to it. Isagi would score his next goal, and he would tell Nico, stop being someone else's pet. Maybe it's time for him to try to score on his own. In which Nico's passing abilities and his accuracy with the ball would be an insane way for him to score. But Isagi is practically sitting in a lawn chair in every single head of Team Y. So even scoring right now would be practically impossible for them. With Isagi's constant pressure and creative offense, there really wasn't much stopping him. Their one-track minded little plan that they came up with was so useless. I mean, come on, they really thought that that was going to work? It's honestly ridiculous. Nonetheless, the game would eventually come to an end, and Isagi would rack up the goals, making him the leader of his team in terms of goals. And his team would celebrate the win, but Isagi would just be more frustrated than anything. He came here for a challenge, and at least that other guy that looked like he was on steroids, completely jacked out of his mind, was somewhat of a challenge and had an idea of how to score a ball or score a goal or even try to score a goal. These people, God, they're doing this lame little trickery thinking that they could just play keep away with the ball. What kind of lame shit is that? Isagi is pissed. He can't even celebrate properly. He just leaves the room after eating a bite of food and just goes and starts working on new skills he tries to more or less in-depthly adapt to. As he's working on these skills though, someone would approach him outside, and it would actually be Bachira. Bachira would follow him and say that they should really try to get in sync, that they could be really good together. But Isagi says that he's less of a team player. He doesn't really like doing all that. But he'd love to show Bachira some skills if he wants to learn something, and maybe he can learn something from Bachira's dribbling. In which, of course, helping each other and working together is really just extremely beneficial for the both of them. But as they work out and as they try to do some drills, the rest of Team Z would arrive as well, saying that they might have 2 games under their belt and they might have 1, but it's obvious that the skill gap between all of them and Isagi in terms of being pure strikers is a distant one. So they need to train with him and work with him as much as possible if they want to close that gap. Isagi smirks and says that it's all about having fun. A striker is a position that is fun. You get all the glory. You score all of it. You can have the glory. And he says that the Nico guy, he was so timid about that. He didn't want the glory? He was scared of it? He ran from it? Isagi would say that he would never run from it. He would never in a million years run from the glory of scoring a goal. None of them should either. Never run from it. Isagi would look around and eventually would see that one of them is actually missing. And that would be Chiguri. Chiguri is currently in a different room watching some film. But Chiguri is currently dealing with his own demons. His demons with his knee and the fact that he tore his ACL and may never play football ever again. But it seems like he's going to continue on with this team and they're going to get further and further, but he doesn't want to get further. He wants his dream to die here. Eventually, some people would actually get a chance to speak with him just a little bit, but his eyes wouldn't open up truly until Isagi would remark toward him that if he gives up now, I mean, he'll be giving up on himself. And I don't know how you could ever live with that. Having a striker's ego should never allow you to just walk away from this game. Isagi says that it doesn't matter that if he blew out both of his kneecaps, he blew out his arm, he lost his eyes, he wouldn't care. He would still play football, no matter what. It didn't matter how bad he would be, didn't matter how well he could even score. He would still play football, because this is the life he chose, and at one point, that's the life that Chiguri chose as well. But he tells him that it's up to him. It all depends on what he wants to do. If he wants to give up, sure, go right on ahead. But at the same time, he hopes that he can find the inner version of himself that can show up and show out in front of every person that's ever doubted him. Eventually, the next day would arrive, and the game against Team W would finally begin. The main people that they need to key in on are the Wanama twins. The Wanama twins are flat out a pretty big issue. They have really good coordination and just easily are able to connect with each other back and forth and back and forth. It seems like there's kind of just no end to their chemistry. But at the same time, Isagi believes that this, in a way, is a boring way of playing. He says that, yeah, it's so cool to more or less coordinate with your buddy. You know, you got freedom to a certain extent, but y'all don't play with anybody else. It's boring. Why are you doing this? Play with the rest of your team. Maybe they can evolve with you. But of course, the plan is this simple. It feels like a running theme for Isagi. It's all about the plan being simple. He sees it. I mean, it's an obvious, simple plan for them. Just coordinate back and forth, move the ball, look for openings, and he'll, quick pass, maybe tempo pass, maybe this or that. And he sees it. He sees the plan. He sees that it could be effective. But the issue for him, and it's a running theme overall, is that he finds it boring. He thinks it's dumb. He could come out here. He could team up with the guy over there, Bachira. They have pretty similar dribbling styles. They could, coordinate some passes and do it up and down the field the entire game, and they could dominate. But what's the fun in that? Relying on someone else that much? What happens when you're by yourself? What happens when that shadow comes over and covers one of you? Isagi decides to do just that. The Wanama twins try their best to score goals, but Isagi is stuck to one of them. He says that he doesn't like playing defense. He really doesn't. He finds it a little bit boring. But at the same time, just to prove a point to these fake strikers that he's seeing, this would never fly in the street. This would never, ever be something that we would let you do down where I come from. Isagi would put the clamps on one of the Wanama twins, not allowing him to even move an inch. He would be everywhere. And the other Wanama twin would crumble like dust. It's as if he can't even get passes through. He can't find his brother anywhere. And this defense would lead to Bachira stealing the ball, setting up Kuragami for goals, Gagumaru getting goals, everybody on their team practically getting goals. Isagi was so frustrated at the fact that this is the second team that is so boring. Like, they want to coordinate so badly that they don't let their creativity run wild just a little bit, just a tiny bit. That's all he wants to see, creativity. So Isagi makes sure that this team loses in dominant fashion, and losing in dominant fashion is exactly what they do. The Wanama twins would crumble at the feet of Isagi and the rest of the team, and even spots of Raichi would show his defensive prowess, kind of mimicking what Isagi was doing. But Isagi is extremely fast. That's really the only reason why he's able to do stuff like that. His defensive prowess isn't that good. He's a little bit more gritty, actually probably a good bit more gritty than everyone else. So in terms of like getting rough, he definitely can get rough without really worrying about getting hurt. But in terms of everything else, he's not the best defender in the world. He can't see the field amazingly and perfectly like some people can. But he definitely can kind of react with his feet and just maneuver where he believes the ball should be. He tries to get a feel for the ball. The ball is speaking to him. But still, nonetheless, they would win the match. Team Z would win against Team W, and that would take them to their very final match. But the thing with that is, these don't even matter anymore. They have won 3 games, so they don't necessarily need to even play this 4th game, but they still will. Isagi wants to still hone his skills, and supposedly Team V is extremely good. And he would actually meet a couple of them, meeting Ryo, Nagi, and also Zantetsu, but he wouldn't really like the attitude of Nagi. The fact is, it seems that Nagi's lazy. He thinks that soccer is boring, and he thinks this or that. And this does not bode well for Isagi. I mean, Isagi doesn't like the attitude. He doesn't like how he's playing it off as if football is this boring sport, and that if he plays it, it's such a drag, and this would piss him off. Isagi would tell him that if it's all such a drag, that he should probably just quit now, because the next game, he's going to embarrass him so badly that he's not going to want to play football ever again in his life anyways, so he should probably just leave. In which Nagi would hear this, and he wouldn't really respond, but Ryo would, telling him to back off, and that he doesn't want anything from their team, that they already got through. He doesn't want to get beat so bad that, well, it's going to be embarrassing. But Isagi strikes back, telling him that there's no way a bunch of softies like them will even touch his team. His team actually has some, a chip on their shoulder, unlike them. It looks like they from some private school or some shit. That's kind of lame. Isagi says that they wouldn't last a single second when you're playing street ball. That they would crumble, they would fall, and they would hit the ground one time and probably run home to mommy. And he says that soon he'll show him exactly what he means. Very soon. Isagi would walk away and he would be ready to smash this team to dust. But when they watch the film, he realizes how talented they really are, or at least how talented one of them are, Nagi. Nagi is an acrobat, it feels like, but at the same time, he has such insane control over the ball. But still, Isagi says that he'll handle Nagi, they'll just have to handle the rest. In which he would see Chiguri beginning to stand up, and he says that the fast dude is his. But Isagi would say that with his little knee issue, he doesn't know if he can keep up. Chiguri would smirk and say that to not worry, that he didn't get a chance to show off against the Wanama twins because he wanted to because of how annoying they were. It seems like Isagi was more annoyed to the point that he kind of just shut him down himself. But Chiguri says that he's not done here yet. A lot of the swagger and all of the confidence that Isagi promotes and projects, frankly, is rubbing off on a lot of them, and Chiguri is one of them. He decides to lock back in for the final time, and he says that if his knee blows out, his knee blows out, because Isagi is right. This is for the love of football and the love of the game, so he's gonna give it his all. Isagi smirks to hear and is happy to hear this, so when they begin the game against Team V, Isagi is excited, but also confident. And the first goal would prove how confident he is. He would immediately pass it up to Bachira, as Bachira would give him a pass back, and Isagi would blitz through their entire team practically, spinning it around Ryo, and then eventually nutmegging Nagi. Yeah, the prodigy, absolutely putting all of them in a blender and scoring the first goal. Isagi looks at them and says that, if they're that talented, he'll copy exactly what he did. But of course they can't. They don't have ball control like him. They don't have dribbling like him. They can't even keep up with him. They might as well polish his cleats, because that's all they're going to be good for after he leaves them crying on the ground. He would walk away, and everybody would get ready once again, and Team V would be on the attack. Ryo immediately looking for a dynamic pass down the field to Nagi, and that pass would eventually come. And while midair, Nagi would control it with one foot so easily, in fact. As he goes to shoot the ball though, someone would come out of nowhere to stop him. It's Raichi. Raichi had a realization of what Isagi has been saying. At the end of the day, Isagi is very gritty, he's very tough, and he's not afraid of anybody. So Raichi needs to play like that as well. He needs to play with reckless abandonment. He needs to play with no fear at all. And that's exactly what he's going to do. He guards Nagi, and the kick would go ringing off of his abdomen, and he would kick the ball away, clearing it entirely. Nagi would be confused. How the hell did he even get there? And why didn't he sense him at all? But still, the ball would be then recovered by the one and only Chiguri, who would be sprinting up the field. Immediately, Zantetsu would try to cut him off, but a quick pass to Isagi once again, and the dynamic footwork of Isagi would be kind of extremely hard to guard. Ryo would make this would be proof of this, but quickly Isagi would flip the ball above Ryo, and as it lands behind Ryo, Isagi would kick the ball, passing it directly to Bachira, telling Bachira to have some fun. And Bachira would begin moving and dribbling and moving left to right in such a dynamic way and such an unpredictable way that it's as if his feet weren't even connected at all. It's as if they're moving completely independently. And Isagi has taught Bachira different ways of dribbling, and he's picked up on them so quickly, it seems like his dribbling has ramped up to a new level. Bachira would eventually slide the ball down his right foot, but as it slides to the left side of his right foot, he would flip it the other way, baiting the guy to go the opposite direction as he kicks off back to the left, or back off to the right. And he would bolt off down the field, and as he comes into the range or his shooting range, someone else would cut him off. It was Nagi, making up for the downtime, and Zantetsu tries to cut them off as well. But as he gets cut off, Bachira would make a beautiful pass, but this pass was a little too high. But Isagi sees it and thinks that he's gonna go get this anyways. He doesn't care. He jumps midair and does a front flip, hitting the ball with the back of his heel and scoring a goal. Everybody's standing there in complete shock. But Nagi, he wants another shot at Isagi. He believes that he can take him on. He can take him down. He has to expose his defense. He can expose that his defense isn't that good. In which he tells Ryo to pass it down the field once again. In which it would happen once again. And, well, Raichi would be there waiting. But he would eventually get by Raichi, making a move, and Isagi would gain ground, being able to get in front of Nagi. He tells Nagi that he's seen some of the best creative and dynamic scorers you could ever see. But Nagi, he's nowhere near that. Isagi would step up to the plate and would begin guarding Nagi, and it seems like he has him completely clamped up. And Isagi continues to talk trash, continues to say things, but eventually Nagi would come out with some insane trick, a trick that would bait Isagi to overcommitting, thinking he has a steal, but he would go by him and score right around another one of the defenders by the name of Raichi, and he would score right around him. It would be amazing. Isagi would see this and he would be stunned, standing still, staring at the ground. But his eyes would then drag upwards as he looks at his teammates and then looks at Nagi. Nagi looks back at him with a bit of confidence, and Isagi smiles and just starts laughing over and over and over again. And he says that it seems like Nagi has a bit of street baller in him after all. But unfortunately enough, well, it doesn't matter that he has a little bit. He's dealing with the whole thing right now, in which Isagi would get the ball later down the field, and Nagi would try to guard him. But the same move that Nagi put on Isagi, he would put it on Nagi as well. But this time it was with another trick. A trick that would bait Nagi into trying to reach for the ball, and it would make him look silly. He would get nutmegged as the ball would spin back around him. He would spin around with the ball, and Isagi would dive toward the goal, easily running and more or less scoring a free goal. Everybody's standing there staring. Whoa, what kind of move was that? They haven't seen Isagi ever do something like that. That was freaking insane. It was as if he was controlling the ball with his mind. It was as if he was able to control it and use it to every whim of his own imagination. And Isagi runs back, now being up 3-1, and he would tell them that that is the definition of creativity. Now watch as he paints the entire field with his graffiti. And everybody is kind of shocked by this. Chills running down so many of their spines. Whoa, now this is a new version of Isagi they never believed would exist. And he calls it his graffiti dribbling. And they're all wondering what this even means, but Bachira understands. He's seen him use it before during their training. He didn't understand how it worked, but it's as if he's using patterns of different art and tags that he's seen before to utilize them against other people and his dribbling. But at the same time, graffiti is not structured. It's not perfect. It's all random and spontaneous in a way sometimes. Isagi's dribbling is just like that. He would follow a pattern, but then out of nowhere, he would abort that pattern entirely, immediately going a different way, trying a different pattern and a different sequence, making it impossible to keep up with his sporadic and creative dribbling style. And Isagi then tells them all that this whole field is his canvas and he's going to make it exactly what it should be. In which Nagi would tell Reo that he can get them another goal. Trust him. He knows he can break free from this. He knows he can evolve and beat that guy. Whoever he is, he'll make sure he wins. Reo would be shocked. I mean, he's never seen Nagi in such a way. How is he? Why is he? He's acting so crazy. But Nagi is locked in, ready to go. He feels unstoppable. He feels that he can step up to the plate now and do some insane things. And he would immediately be darting down the field, dribbling past multiple people, and he passes it up to Zantetsu, looking for a quick tap pass from him as well. He would get it, but then the ball would be stolen. Isagi would say that his dribbling style and that his little movements, the movements he thinks that are so good, are way too predictable. That maybe he should add some spice to his life a little bit and add a little bit of something to his step. Maybe add a little pep to his step. He would dart by and easily get by multiple people, setting up Kunigami for a goal for himself. He then says that it's now time for the rest of his team to now eat. They will all now eat, and he'll make sure they all are able to evolve. In which Nagi, Reo, Zantetsu, and everybody else on Team V doesn't even know what to do. It's as if they truly are crumbling right on the hands of Isagi. It's as if Isagi knew that once they stepped on this field, once they stepped on his canvas, there was no getting out. There was no escape. This is truly hell, and Isagi makes it feel that way. But at the end of the day, the game wouldn't mean anything beyond a teaching lesson and a teaching moment. Isagi's team would win, Team Z would go undefeated, and Isagi would show off something that nobody there would even believe he could do. Everybody celebrates, and this time around Isagi would celebrate as well. He would believe that he just evolved in such a way that was beautiful, that was creative, amazing, and just enjoyable. He just had so much joy in this game of football. And he even stops and compliments Nagi, compliments Reo and even Zantetsu, saying that they may have lost by a lot, but everybody lost by a lot. But at the same time, they allowed him to see things that he never knew he would be able to see. To feel, to enjoy. He never knew he could feel like this, but now he does. It's truly, truly amazing. Isagi says that they all have potential, but that one right there, as he points at Nagi, says that he's just like one of his friends. He's a street baller at heart. His unorthodox way of controlling the ball. It's as if the ball really speaks to him when his foot touches it. He just needs a push in the right direction. And sometimes you just need the right person to push you in the right direction. Isagi would leave, and Nagi would stand there just thinking about what Isagi said. That guy, he's truly something. And after the celebrations, after everybody's happy that they won, new information would come in from the one and only Jinpachi Ego. It would be revealed that he kind of lied about the building, the whole building assortment, that they're not necessarily the worst ever, and that every single building was actually labeled the same thing. He was trying to make them feel inferior. But Isagi then says that he ain't ever felt inferior in his life, and he will never feel inferior. In which Jinpachi Ego would smirk and say that many people aren't like you, Mr. Isagi. But at the same time, this experiment needed to happen. He then tells them all that the next selection, the second selection, will eventually be upon them. They have some physical training to do, but once they're done with all of that, they will then go on to the next selection. After all of it is said and done, well, they do take on the first part of the second selection, being that of Blue Lock Man. Blue Lock Man is a bit of an easy thing for Isagi. Nothing too major, nothing too crazy, but Isagi finds his way around it. He believes that it's not the hardest thing to deal with. I mean, he's not the most powerful in terms of kicking, but at the same time, his shooting is definitely creative. He knows how to more or less get his own goal from crazy angles and different positions, and he's shown that over and over again. But he just doesn't have the range of a Kunigami. But he has pretty decent range, in fact. Nothing, obviously, insanely overpowered, at least compared to the rest of the stuff he can do. But still good enough to get by Blue Lock Man. And after it's all said and done, and he walks out of those doors to the next part of the selection, he sees Bachira, and Bachira would immediately jump on him. He would tell him that it's good to see the buddy. He's glad he didn't fail, because that would have sucked. It would have sucked not having his buddy play with him. And Isagi would say that he really should watch how he says things, because it's a little sus. And Bachira would question what that even means, but Isagi would just ignore it, thinking that he's kind of like a little kid. He probably shouldn't go too into detail what he's even talking about. But a surprise would come to Isagi, as they only need one more person, but Nagi would walk up to him, saying that he wants Isagi on his team. Ryo would say that he already has a partner and that it won't work, but Isagi would reply, saying that Nagi can be on his team, but he would have to leave Ryo and join him. There's a reason for this. Isagi tells him that he wants to make something unpredictable, something not structured, and Bachira is the closest thing to that. Bachira's dribbling, it was on a whole nother level, maybe even on another level than mine. Mine is so different than Bachira's, but Bachira's is just as creative, but just in a different way. Your way of ball control, your ability to manipulate and use the ball to your own advantage, that's creative. But we can make you even more creative, even more lethal, just like us. Isagi would smirk, and he would think that if they have Nagi on their team, oh, it'll be a hell of a fun game for whoever they go against next. And Nagi, well, he would accept the offer, deciding to join Isagi, and they would walk through those doors. They would walk through those doors to get ready to take on whoever's behind them 3 versus 3. And the team they find is the number 1 player currently in Blue Lock, Itoshi Rin, with the number 2 and number 3 players, in which Isagi would get frustrated about, saying that he should have scored more goals. Whatever. He would then say that he challenges them. Let's see if they really are as good as those numbers say they are. And that is a wrap for part 2 of What If Isagi Had a Street Baller Weapon. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.